Hi everyone, it's Naya here from NL Wellness, and a quick post-training video as part of my free How to Stay in Shape at Home series. I've had someone ask me to explain how you can implement all of this nutritional information into everyday life, which is a very good question. And so I'm going to break down various points and keep it nice and simple and explain how you can just implement it into everyday life. So, blue light goes through your eyes into the suprachiasmatic nucleus of your brain, which is like the conductor to all your hormones. Okay, so if blue light does that late at night, your cortisol levels will go up, especially if you're watching something stressful. Your body will think it's still daylight. Your melatonin production won't be produced as it should be, which should peak from 10 PM to 2 AM. So what can you do about that? Buy yourself a cheap set of blue blocker shades for £20 or £30, and if you are going to look at a screen within an hour before bed, which you shouldn't, but in reality most people do, and if you are going to wear these blue blocker shades, which will then block the blue light completely, thus preventing the body and the suprachiasmatic nucleus from still thinking it's daylight, thus not interrupting your sleep quality, especially your deepest phases of non-REM sleep, phase 3 and 4. So from a sleep point of view, that's a really good way of trying to make sure your body's natural hormone, especially appetite hormone regulation and production, is as it should be. When it comes to eating protein, your body can't store protein as it does with carbohydrate and fat. It will have a kind of a base level of amino acids, which are the building blocks of proteins, of which there are 20. And a rough rule of thumb is try and consume 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight a day. So if you're a 60 kilogram female, you're aiming for approximately 120 grams of protein a day. There's no way that's going to be dangerous. Protein has a higher dietary induced thermogenesis, which means about 24-25% of the calories of a protein are used not breaking it down into amino acids in the first place. They tend to fill you up more. They're also going to provide your body with a whole host of things, but especially the amino acids base needed for lean muscle production and maintenance, especially if you can't do heavy resistance training because of quarantine, which you might normally do, which is ideally the best way to keep your lean muscle mass stable. It is possible through bodyweight calisthenics, but especially if you're trained, you're going to usually have to add weight or hard progressions to that, and for most people it's easy to do with resistance training typically. In terms of carbohydrates, just be aware that you're trying to eat the most complex carbohydrates you can. Be aware vegetables are carbohydrates, but they're kind of micronutrient dense, lots of vitamins and minerals with very, very little sugar. Okay, so although vegetables are carbohydrates, you want to eat as many of those as you can, to be honest, lots of fibre in. Try and keep the more obvious sweet things down, because what that does is it causes your blood sugar to spike, and your body's got a very, very effective blood sugar regulation system for safety, and the main way in which it does that is to pump up your insulin, and that serves to take the blood out of the sugar and store it. Trouble is, if your carb stores are full, which is only 2,000 calories worth, it has to get stored as fat essentially. Not only that, insulin promotes fat storage pathways and will actually shut down your fat oxidation or your fat burning pathways. So if you want to try and maintain weight or even lose weight, it's best to try and limit the amount that insulin goes up by having less sugary carbs. In terms of fat, just think nature doesn't make bad fats, humans do. So, don't be scared to eat fat. If you increase your protein and you increase your fat intake, especially natural kinds of fat, your carb percentage of your diet will go down almost certainly, which means less insulin, which means less fat storage. Fat doesn't actually make you fat. Just be aware that for every gram of fat there's 9 calories, so it's more calorie dense, so you don't want to over-consume in overall calories if you can. In terms to my video about calorie counting, it's often very, very inaccurate. I wouldn't worry about it unless you're an athlete and you kind of have to, or you having a dietitian working that out for you for health reasons. But just be aware that using things like the free version of MyFitnessPal can help you become aware of what foods have what in, and it normally brings to the forefront of your mind calorie intake. So blue blocker shades for sleep, ideally get off the screen an hour before bed. try and get 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight a day. Try and reduce your more sugary carbs and eat more vegetables instead. Be aware that fruit has a lot of fructose is the main sugar in fruit, and only your liver can process fruit. So I don't know how heavy your liver is, but let's say it's 2 to 3 kilos. So only your liver, 2-3 kilos worth, can process fructose, whereas every cell in your body can process fructose. So too much fruit basically means too much sugar in the form of fructose, which means fat deposition quite quickly and easily. So keep your fruit to a minimum. It's very good for you, obviously, but just don't go wild with it. And in terms of fats, try and remember that nature doesn't make bad fats, humans do. So yes, the fat in an egg yolk is good for you. It's not going to do you any harm unless you're having like 50 eggs a day or something. Likewise, when it comes to cholesterol, if you're having more dietary cholesterol, more cholesterol in the foods that you eat, your body will actually make less cholesterol. So I'm not a doctor, I'm not saying don't watch out for cholesterol levels. If your cholesterol level is above 5.2 millimoles a litre, you might have to think about ways to reduce it, but for most people it's just not an issue. So I hope you enjoyed this short video, and I'll be doing other such videos in the near future explaining how you can apply the nutrition into real life. And thank you for watching, and if you liked it, please like my Facebook page, NL Wellness, and I'll speak to you soon.